I'm Alok Srivastava, and in this video, I'm going to tell you how we actually access a Kubernetes cluster. Normally, what we do in the training, we work on the master itself and then give the kubectl or the kubectl command line. But this is not how the things will be. You will not be moving inside the data center and working or on the master, or you will not be given SSH access onto the master or the manager to work on the Kubernetes cluster. So how the things are being used, that we are going to see in this video. So in the trainings, what we normally do, we normally work onto the manager itself or the control plane, and then we give the kubectl command line tools to create the pods and do whatever. And we normally work with the root access. We have got the full access and we do all the things. Do you really think that you will be given a SSH access? No, probably not. Other way of working around is that you have to go inside the data center, which might be somewhere in Europe or somewhere. And so am I supposed to go inside the data center and then give the command? No, probably not. Then how we work? So the cluster will be at some other location, some secure location, might be at remote location normally. I will be working on my machine, right, from my office premises or from my secure laptop. And the data center is somewhere else. So how we access it? This is what we are going to learn. So I have a small cluster which I had built on this machine. So I'm going to use this machine to show you how the things work. So the whole video is divided into two parts. First, we will simply have a different machine which is not a part of the Kubernetes cluster and access with a root. That's the part one. Second, again, more close to the real life or the production scenarios, that you might be given a small role to create the pods or create the resources in a particular namespace, right? Like say prod namespace. So I will be allowed to create the pods in the prod namespace. You might be allowed to create the pods in the test namespace, right? I will be allowed to create the pods, but not allowed to delete the pods. So the second part of the video is we will be focusing on the RBAC. So let me use this cluster, this machine, this beautiful wallpaper, and not the wallpaper, the machine on which this wallpaper is, and let's do it. Okay, so as I have told you, we will be discussing about RBAC and how you will be actually accessing a Kubernetes cluster in a real world scenarios. So normally what happen that let me use a pen here. Say let's suppose we are doing some training. So this particular video is more for the guys who are doing the Kubernetes training like CKA certification. So normally what we do, that we have suppose a manager here and certain workers are there which we create in the lab, and obviously they are connected to each other, right? This is my manager, and say this is node 1 and node 2, node 1 and node 2. So this is the kind of setup we normally do in the training, and you learn that you sit directly on the manager and execute the kubectl command, right? And you use the kubectl or the kube control from this machine to create the pods and all the things, which is fine for learning perspective, which is good, you are learning. But now think of it, if we switch our thinking mode to a real production environment, then these managers, these servers, these node 1, node 2, isn't it, they will be a part of a data center. They will be sitting inside a secure location, inside a data center, right? So are you allowed to go inside the data center and then give the command? Will you ever do it? No. Might be this server is at some other location. This data center might be at some other location. Might be it is you are working from India and this servers might be setting up in Europe, somewhere else. So are you supposed to go to the manager? This is what you are doing currently, or how you learn the things, that you directly log in onto the manager and give the commands. Things will not work like this, right? So how we will do? Practically, you will not be working here. So that means you will not be here. No. You will not be giving the kubectl command here. No. This is a secure location. So practically what will happen? You will be actually within your own workstation, right? Your own data center, you will be sitting somewhere else. And you have your own workstation here. Yes, obviously your workstation will somehow be connected to the data center. That's fine. But you will be working from a different location, altogether a different location. You will not be sitting directly onto your manager, right, and giving the commands there. You will be somewhere else. So how we do this? Number one, we just need to install kubectl here. The kubectl package need to be installed here, and I just need a file which will take me to the manager, right? If you remember, during the setup, we used to copy etc kubernetes admin.conf file in the .q folder. So let's see how we do it. So I am dividing this video into two parts. Number one, you have the root access or the full access, but your machine is different. You are not in the inside the data center. This is a different location, a secure place. So you are not at all allowed to go here. This is a secure location. Might be in some other part of the world, as I have told you. So how you will access it from a remote location? This is what we are going to do. So we are going to introduce one more machine. This is for this guy, right? So if I show you, I hope this is the picture which we are going to do is clear to you. So I will be able to access the Kubernetes cluster from a different machine, not from the managers, which we normally do, which is good, but not the way we do it. So let's try this. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to clear first all this. So this is my manager. Now see here, I am sitting on the manager and giving the command kubectl get nodes, kubectl get pods. Fine, but you will not be doing it like this. Okay, how we do it? So that's the IP address. Let me find out the IP address of the machine. My manager IP is 10.0.0.100. So what I had done, I had created one more machine for you. This one, workstation, right? This is a machine which is in the same network. So these are my three machines: master, node 1, node 2. I start this machine. This is Ubuntu desktop. Now workstation is Ubuntu desktop, whereas the manager, node 1 and node 2 are Ubuntu servers, because we don't need desktop on the servers. So this is a fresh machine which I had installed. The only thing I had done is that I had given it an IP address of 200. Let me show it. Let it start. Yep. So this machine has got nothing to do with Kubernetes cluster. Those three machines are separate machines, right? So this is altogether a different machine. So these three machines are my manager, node 1 and node 2. These are different machines. Manager, node 1 and node 2. These are the separate machines. This is a separate machine, workstation. Yes, they are in a network. We are able to talk to each other. That's the point. But it is way outside my Kubernetes cluster. My Kubernetes cluster is this only. This part. This is my Kubernetes cluster. Right? This is not a part of the Kubernetes cluster. So let's try this now. So this is the machine. I log in here. It's a Ubuntu desktop 20.04. Now Now let's open the terminal. I will first check the connectivity things, that whether, okay, well, what I do, I will access it from my machine. So IP is 192.168.121.143. So I will use MOBA XTerm to access it, right? So I open it 141. Do I have, so sorry, what's the IP? I forgot the IP. It is 143. Okay, so 143, it is 142. Let me delete it. So I create a session here, SSH 192.168.121.143. so this is 143, and the username is Alok in my case, and I click OK. That's it. Yeah. Oh, connection refused. Oh, I don't have SSH installed here. Wow. Because by default Ubuntu machines won't have the SSH install, right? So I just need to give a apt install open SSH server. This is what I do here. That's all. It hardly takes 1 minute. So now I should be able to access it. So this is again a good thing. And let it finish. I will go back to my MOBA XTerm and access it. Let it finish. Wonderful, guys. So I do a retry. That's all. It should connect. Yes, accept the fingerprint. Yeah, done. That's it. So this is my workstation machine, right? So it will be easy for you to see here, and will be easy for me to do the job also. That's the workstation machine. Now, shall I increase the font one more time? Perfect. I do a sudo -i. All I need to do is to check the connectivity. My IP is 10.0.0.200 and the manager IP is 100. So let me check whether I am able to ping it. Ping 10.0.0.100. Wonderful. That's cool, guys. Right. So I want to access my cluster. My cluster consists of these three machines. Let me show it again. Kubectl get nodes. So these three machines, master, node 1, node 2. Nowhere workstation machine is a part of it. It's entirely a different machine within the network. I'm able to reach it. Number 1, install the kubectl. Right? I'll use the snap to install it. So kubectl need to be installed on the machine, obviously, because you will be using the kubectl to manage it. Done. So the first case is I wanted to access it as root, like as if I have got full rights, right? This is the first thing in this video. Now the kubectl is installed. Yep. Now what I had to do, I need to create a file .cube. Sorry, a directory. Sorry. Now go inside .cube, and from this machine, this file etc Kubernetes Admin.conf, right? This file I'll copy here, or I can do a cat and do it. That's much better. I do a cat and copy it, right? So ideally I need to copy this file to the remote machine. Let me do a SCP. That I think will be much more clear to you. So SCP admin.conf, I say alok at 10.0.0.200, right? Okay, I'll remove the known host entries, no problem. I'll remove known host. It will create it again. That's not a big deal. I have to go to etc Kubernetes, and I copy the admin.conf to the server from where I wanted to access. Gone. So if I go to the workstation machine, my workstation machine has got under home alok. I have got this admin.conf. Now I'll copy it because I'm the root. So I copy this home alok admin.conf in the current directory as the file config, right? So this file got copied here with the config. That's all. So this file contains the credentials. This is very important file. I'll be tweaking this. That this is the cluster, this is the IP address you are accessing as the Kubernetes admin, the root access, right? That's all. So if I give the command here kubectl get nodes, see, I'm able to access my cluster. Wow. So I am able to manage the cluster kubectl get pods. Let me create a pod then. If I am able to create the pod, I'll check all the things. Kubectl get pods in the namespace. Kube means you are able to execute every command. So that is how the things will be. I will have no access onto the master directly, the shell. Please try to understand this. You will be accessing it from a different machine. So what you have to do, couple of steps. Install kubectl, right? Then the admin will send you the file. Okay, in this case, I'm assuming that we have the root privileges. So fine, I'm able to access it. So let me create a small pod here. Do I have a pod file here? Somewhere here, somewhere here, somewhere here. Okay, let me create this devpod.yaml. I'll copy it, right? I'll just copy this and paste it. I'll not do it here. I'm just getting the code. So here on the workstation, all right, I created a folder, say my jobs, and I go in my jobs. I create a folder, my pod.yaml, and oh, Vim is not installed. No problem. Yum, install Vim. Easy stuff. It's a fresh machine, so we are expecting these things. So you don't need to actually install kubectl on the master itself, right? You don't need to install that. So just wait for a minute. Okay, wonderful. No. Come on. Okay, job done. I can say my pod, say first pod.yaml, and I just paste the thing there. So I'm working. I don't have a namespace dev, so that's it. Right, that's it. I'm creating a very simple pod here. So I am on a workstation machine which has got nothing to do with the Kubernetes cluster. It's not a part of the Kubernetes cluster. The Kubernetes cluster is sitting like provisioned on the cloud or on somewhere else, right, at a different location. So I give the command here kubectl create -f first pod. Sorry, what happened? Kubectl create workstation. What's the file name? Wow. Oh, I didn't save it. Oh, it's in my job. Sorry. Yeah, perfect. I give the command here kubectl create -f first pod.yaml. Oh, see, there might be some validation things here. Let me check it. Some file might be having some issues. API line is missing. Wow. See, so I forgot this line. No problem. That is good. No problem, right? Job done. So I run it again. It's created. So if I give the command here kubectl get pods, I should be seeing it. Yeah, it's running 4 seconds ago. So this is what we have learned. Let me summarize it once more for you. My Kubernetes cluster actual cluster is somewhere else, right? This is my manager. This is my node 1. This is my node 2. They are somewhere else, right? Obviously network connectivity is there. They are somewhere else in a secure location. We will normally not be allowed to go inside the data center to do the jobs, right? Normally you do the training like that. So I am sitting at a different location with my own workstation or my machine, provided you have the internet, you have the connectivity. That's it. So you will be installing kubectl here on this machine, right? And that conf file, that config file, which is actually here, this admin.conf file is here, right? So this file need to be sent to you. and you will be copying this file inside your home directory .cube folder with a file name config. And currently I have shown you that we are doing now from my workstation machine. I am able to create the pods and do all the things in the cluster by sitting on this machine. This is how things will be given to you when you will be working in a real-time environment. But the one thing is there that I have a root access here, which might not be the case normally. You might be given the task to work in a specific namespace, right? You might be given a task to only create the pods, not delete the pods. So that comes under RBAC. Okay, now take the second part of this video. Currently we are doing everything with the root, which might not be the case. From the workstation I have got the full access, right? I'm doing everything with the root. I had this cube folder and all these things. Suppose a new user has joined in. So, and he is allowed, say Alok. Okay, let's suppose a new user, Alok, has joined, or suppose say Jack or any other user has joined the company, and that user should be given access or should be allowed to create the pods in a particular namespace. Let's suppose I create a namespace kubectl create namespace prod. Say, so one namespace is created, prod. So I wanted to create a new user who should be allowed to create the pods only in that test namespace, right? So, and obviously he will be working from a different machine, say workstation machine. Let me create a user here, right? Say I use the add user tool, say I give the name here, okay, let's say Ragnar Lothbrok, right? So Ragnar has joined. So my new password of Ragnar is Red Hat. I should have given Vikings as the password. Full name is Ragnar Lothbrok. I really love this character. Room number was what? I just blanket work phone. I blanket Vikings don't have the phone numbers. Others leave it. Is this information correct? Yes. Right. So one user Ragnar is created. So I log in as Ragnar now. I'm the Ragnar, right? I'm not the root. So Ragnar has joined the company, and Ragnar should be given access to the prod namespace. That in the prod namespace he should be allowed to create the pods. That's it. He should not be allowed to do anything in other namespaces. So what are the steps? Step number 1. Ragnar will be creating his SSL keys, right? So Ragnar will be giving this command: open SSL gen RSA -out, whatever the name of the key. I give Ragnar.key and the size is 2048 bit, let's suppose, right? So Ragnar will generate his keys, this one, and then Ragnar will convert this into a CSR file. So open SSL request a new CSR file. My key is key is Ragnar.key, and the output is say Ragnar.csr, right? And I can supply my full name, subject cm Ragnar, right? So a CSR file is created. So Ragnar has to send his key and the CSR file to the C. Let me try to draw it. It will be easy on you. So this is the cluster. Different color. I want this color. Right. This is it. So this is my cluster here, which is obviously inside a secure location, right? It's inside a secure location, and Ragnar is sitting somewhere else. Ragnar is here. This is Ragnar, right? Ragnar Lothbrok. He's sitting here. He has joined the company. His machine obviously will be connected to the network somehow, right? we are connected to this network. So Ragnar will, and when you create a Kubernetes cluster, a self-signed certificate authority is automatically available on the manager. So manager is already configured with the CA. So what the Ragnar will do, Ragnar will send his CSR file and the key file to the CA, right? CA will take his CSR file, convert it into a CRT, and then give it back to the Ragnar. And Ragnar will have got CSR, key and CRT, right? Ragnar will use this for the authentication. Let's try this. So here we are. So I will send this key to the manager here. This is my manager, right? So I do a SCP of Ragnar.key to say alok at 10.0.0.100, right? Yes, so Red Hat, and will also send the CSR. CSR will be sent. Now, these two files have to the manager, right? So I'll copy it. I will cp home alok Ragnar everything to the current directory. So I have got Ragnar.csr and the Ragnar.key, right? So the CA will then convert this CSR into the CRT. So now I am on the master, right? This is a master machine. I have the Ragnar credentials which Ragnar has sent me. So I will give this command open SSL based on X509 standard. I am requesting a new certificate. Input is Ragnar.csr. Right, and CA will also have to tell that where is my certificate at C Kubernetes PKI CA.crt. That's the location of the CA certificate, and CA key should also be given at C Kubernetes PKI CA.key. I will also have a serial generated for the certificate, create serial, and output will be say Ragnar.crt, right? Ragnar.crt, and this certificate will be valid for say 365 days. Let's say this is. So now I have this Ragnar certificate, right? Now root job, this is root's job, the CA job, to send Ragnar his certificate and Ragnar certificate, as well as he has to send what? He has to send his key. So his key is already with him, so need not to worry about that. So he will send back the Ragnar certificate to Ragnar. So I will say scp Ragnar.crt to say, I can copy it in Ragnar, Ragnar at 10.0.0.200. That's it. Done. Right. So Ragnar has received his certificate from the signed certificate from the CA Kubernetes cluster, right? Now, one more thing that he has to do. So these, the key and this is there. Also, the manager, right? The manager or the CA will send this file to the Ragnar at C Kubernetes admin.conf, right? This file need to be sent with some modifications. So either root can do the modification and then send to the Ragnar, right? Or Ragnar can do it himself. So let me just copy it. Ragnar will do the changes. scp at C Kubernetes admin.conf, and I send to Ragnar at 10.0.0.200. Right, so this file is gone. Now Ragnar has to do certain changes. This is the file, right? He will open the file. He will create a folder mkdir.cube, right? Go in the .cube, will copy the admin.conf here with the name of config, right? Same steps, and will do certain changes here. So he will open the config file. What he has to do, cluster need not to touch. The Kubernetes cluster name by default is Kubernetes. That is the IP address. He will not touch it. Context he will touch, right? Cluster is Kubernetes. The name is supposed to be Ragnar, right? Ragnar. The context need to be set. Before we do here, let me just do one thing. The permissions also need to be given to Ragnar, right? So now the CA will create a user for the Ragnar. So Ragnar key, the manager has received the Ragnar key and the Ragnar CRT. So now a user should be created with the name of Ragnar on Kubernetes cluster. So this has to be done kubectl config set credentials, give it a name, say Ragnar, right? ---- client certificate is Ragnar.crt. We have it, right? Ragnar client certificate Ragnar.crt and client key and set credentials kubectl config set credentials. Ragnar client certificate is Ragnar.crt and client key is equal to Ragnar.key, right? So it says user Ragnar is created, but user is created, but where he is allowed to work? If you remember, I told you that he should be allowed to work only in the prod. So now I will set a context kubectl or kubectl config set context. Name of the context can be anything. Normally if the name is Ragnar, so I give the name Ragnar-context, or normal Ragnar can be given, means it doesn't make any difference. So let me give the Ragnar as the context name, all right. Also set context Ragnar, and what's the name of the cluster? Cluster name is Kubernetes, right? Which namespace? Namespace is prod. Which user? Name is Ragnar, right? That means Ragnar user, Ragnar. So Ragnar user is being given, is allowed to work only in the prod namespace. But what he is allowed to do in the prod namespace? So we create a role. There are two things, role and the cluster role, right? So role, the difference between the role and the cluster role is that role and cluster role. Role is specific to a namespace, role is bind to a namespace, right? Whereas cluster role is cluster wide. So I don't want Ragnar to create the things anywhere. Ragnar should be specified to create the things only in the prod, right? So I'll be creating a role for him. And he will be allowed to create only pods, right? Not anything else in my case. So first we create a role for this, and the second we create a role binding and bind the role to the user Ragnar. This is what we are going to do. So let's do it then. So if you go to kubernetes.io, you need not to remember all these things. Just visit kubernetes.io, documentation section, just search here RBAC and you get all the things here. You're allowed to visit this role. So I just copy this one. I'll not make much changes here. So he create a file here. Say I call it say prod pod role, anything, .yaml. I paste it here. This is a role. Namespace is say prod. Say pod reader. I say pod creator because they will be creating the pod get watch list. So I just want the create to also be given create. That's all. I save and come out. I give the command kubectl create -f pod create. I can check it. Kubectl describe and copy and paste for this role. Paste it in the namespace prod. It says yes, anyone who is a part of this role will be able to get watch create pods. Okay, but then I need to bind this to Ragnar. So again go here and do a role binding. Here it is. Copy this role binding stuff, right? Easy stuff, guys. So the prerequisite, obviously you need to bind prod role, anything, YAML, paste it, role binding, name of the role is say create pods prod, in the namespace prod it is to be bind to a user Ragnar who is in the namespace prod, right? If you wish, you can remove this line, RBAC line, and then role. What's the name of the role? Sorry, I forgot the name of the role. Name of the role is pod creator, huh? So then I put it here, pod creator. That's all. So this user Ragnar is, which is in the prod namespace, is bind to this role. I do a kubectl create -f bind prod. Now I can check it, kubectl describe, and let's copy it in the namespace prod. It says, yeah, user Ragnar who is in the prod is in this role, and this role has got these rights, right? So now we had set the context and the permissions are also given, RBAC permissions are given. Now what the Ragnar will do, now Ragnar will open this file. Once that will be done by the root, the admin, the super boss of the Kubernetes cluster. You might not be given these things, and then Ragnar will change these things for his file, or this file can be given by the admin itself, right? So this cluster is Kubernetes, user in my case is Ragnar, so I can change it Ragnar, right? Name, and the cluster is this. I can specify the namespace also. It is good that we specify the namespace prod, right? User is this, and name is again Ragnar, and the context if you given was Ragnar, right? So this also need to be changed to Ragnar, right? Don't touch this. Yeah, username is Ragnar, not admin, Ragnar. And this is actually the certificate of the root, so I will remove these lines. Here I will supply my path, my client certificate. Where is my client certificate? What's the name? Let me check. My client certificates are in my home directory, ragnar.crt and ragnar.key in my home Ragnar. Okay, so I go here, I just supply their path. So this will be home ragnar.crt, that this is my credentials. He has to supply his credentials to Kubernetes, right? Client-key is home ragnar.key. That's it. So either he will do it, these things, right? Or admin will modify the file for him and then send it. Whatever. Now, I am Ragnar. I give the command here kubectl get nodes. Forbidden, you cannot use it. Fair enough. I say get pods. See, by default he is going in prod. By default. Because we had set the namespace. Remember this. Wait, let me show you. I had supplied this namespace. So by default, any command he will give, it will by default go in the prod. So if Ragnar tries to do anything here, say he say kubectl get pods in the namespace test. He says forbidden, right? In dev forbidden. But if he give prod, he's right getting the things. So he should be allowed to create a pod also. Let's try that. So we have that file. I will get any pod YAML from here. Just wait. Node selector. I remember it. I can get a pod definition and we'll try to create it. Yeah, this one. Copy. Right. Ragnar creates it. Say Ragnar.yaml. Need not to be the name as Ragnar.yaml. So, but I can give the name as Ragnar Lothbrok or say Viking, right? Vikings in the namespace prod. That's all. I'm not touching the rest of the things. So Ragnar is doing it, right? So if Ragnar says kubectl get deployments, let's say, he says no, you are not allowed, right? He can only get the pods, list the pods, get the pods, and if we give here kubectl create Ragnar, yep, pod created. Wow, kubectl get pods. See, so he is able to create the pods. He is able to do the things which are given in this, and he has got no full access. Now this is how practically the things will be. Things are configured actually. So you have to have very clear understanding of these things. You will be working from a separate machines. Let me stop this video by just explaining you finally once more, right? So your cluster will be separate, Kubernetes cluster, which will be in a secure location. You will not be given any physical access to it the way you do the training, right? You will be sitting in a different location with your machine, workstation or laptop, which will not be a part of the cluster. Yes, you will have a connectivity to this data center, right? You will be installing kubectl here and the steps which I have defined here. Yes, provided the manager, the admin here has created your user Ragnar, has created a user Ragnar and assigned him specific permissions with the RBAC. This is what I had shown you here. So I hope I was able to make you understand how the things are deployed in a production environment. This is what we aim to do, or we try to do at Network Nuts. Try to give you more beyond the curriculum, beyond the standard curriculum. I hope you have liked this. Do share your comments. I'll be eagerly waiting for your comments. And thank you very much. I'll see you soon. Take care, guys. Godspeed.